We just finished talking about Microsoft's conference, and before we get to Sony, let's talk about the third-party conferences. Konami wasn't here, so that's a big zero.
Yeah, I mean they have Metal Gear Solid, and they had other games too, but they had no video this time.
It probably doesn't have any major game announcements to talk about because all the games are already known what they're in development.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about EA and Ubisoft together because both conferences had a very small amount of games, and I figure let's just consolidate it, make it easier for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched EA's conference.
I wasn't able to.
But I'll let you know right now, concept art was everywhere. Essentially what happened is that they first showed off Star Wars Battlefront. And by that I mean they showed off the DICE offices and showed people walking around with models of characters about how they were going into the LucasArts venues and seeing actual models and stuff, and saying this is a great inspiration, and how they were going around into these extreme environments to really feel the experience. But they also went ahead and showed off very little footage of the game. There was some prototype footage, some artwork, but there wasn't anything that was concrete. In fact, after this was done, the president of EA came out and literally said, this is a different event. We're going to talk about games in their embryonic stage, essentially. So these are games and concepts that may never come out or may completely change, for better or for worse. I feel that it's actually pretty good to see the inside, kind of like a diary of sorts of what's going on in development. I don't think the press conference was a good place to do it.
No, press conference is designed for announcements, especially at E3.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be game announcements. You're supposed to announce the gamers, what you're working on, what to expect on the store shelves, and they didn't bring that to us.
Yeah, and even in some cases, like in the digital event from Nintendo and event, they actually talk about games and they show gameplay, but they have these interviews actually explaining themselves. In this, we're kind of hearing more of like this wishy-washy concept. I mean, it doesn't need to be wishy-washy, but it sounds like it because there's nothing of real substance to go by. It felt like a very empty conference.
So
running down it, and so Dragon Age Inquisition, they had a woman playing the cello, got the general producer going, all of the feels, which made me angry everywhere, and they showed off some gameplay, cooperative gameplay that you can actually swap between the characters. That looked nice. Remind me actually a lot of Monster Hunter, which is actually kind of odd, but obviously it's not Monster Hunter, it's Dragon Age. Then they showed a video of Bioware again. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's going to be another Mass Effect. And they did, in fact, show artwork of Mass Effect. And they said, we're making a new Mass Effect. And then they kind of walked off. They kind of disappeared. And they said, we're also making a new IP. A brand new IP. But we kind of have this gameplay clip, which is literally just this scenario which showed like this house, this hut or something, in a forested hill. And then that was the end of it. And so both of those games are very early, which is kind of a discerning thing. I kind of expected Mass Effect 4 to be in a state where we can actually see something more concrete.
Teaser trailers, something to get us excited for it. Because it was like sort of announcement like a year ago or something.
Yeah, it's been a while since we heard anything about a new Mass Effect. But they did show off The Sims 4. One of the funny things I like to note is that whenever they announced something, there was a woman who cheered exceptionally loud. And it's obvious that this woman was being paid or was an intern.
It was a plant.
Because when the person who had The Sims says, it's time to talk about The Sims, there was this girl, very loud girlish scream. It's like 20 women all of a sudden going, ee! Kind of like that. It was kind of awkward at that moment. But in this case, The Sims now have the ability for you to modify their demeanor. You can change it, like someone like poetry. You change it to if they get angry at this, kind of changing their personality as well. And you can share them across the internet.
Yes.
So it looks really good in the sense that if you were a fan of The Sims, this is going to be the next step up. And I was actually reminded of Tomodachi Life, but I didn't want to say it, and I just did. But The Sims 4 is progressing very well, I would say. Then they start talking about Bruce Lee. And say how good of a fighter was and how no one could be like Bruce Lee. And then a guy comes up on stage and goes, no, cut the video. This is a lie. Because no one can be like Bruce Lee except now you can. And then they show off a fight of UFC where someone's playing as Bruce Lee, which by the way is full of microtransactions. It's like $3 per class to play as Bruce Lee.
Sounds like this conference is going off.
It's not done yet.
Oh, it's not?
No, they actually show off EA Sports NHL 15. which was actually really good. They had a slow motion of there's a lot of focus of the animations while playing ice hockey. It looks great. So that's a good sports game coming out. One thing I have to praise for them is that they actually spread the sports games apart. Last year they were right in the center, which really did it a disservice, I felt. They actually had gameplay to show as opposed to kind of this teaser thing in the background. Then Criterion Games had a new IP to show off, but it was in embryonic form, in the sense that they essentially were saying that they don't have a name for it. It's a first-person Pilot Wings-esque extreme sports game. They show footage of you riding on a motorcycle, riding really hard. They show people skydiving. You have one of those flying suits. People in a helicopter. They said that it sounds like it would be a great game. Yeah, it would be a great game, except there's nothing to show for it. And they show like little stages of gameplay, and I got to give them credit for showing it off. But that sounds more like a dev diary thing that happens outside of a press conference, much like I mentioned before. Good for them. It could be really cool because it's a first-person Pilot Wings extreme sports game. But that's all I got to go with. And then they show off EA Sports PGA Tour. One of the biggest things they announced is that now there's fantasy courses. So they show a person who's about to putt, and all of a sudden a battleship starts crashing into the island as he swings. And I was like, "What happens? What happens if you land on the boat?" But they ended the video at that. There was a teaser trailer, so we really didn't see much besides that.
A lot of teaser trailers.
A lot of teasers. Be quiet, we got more. So they show off EA Sports Madden NFL 15. They showed off the fact that you got a lot of defense focus, very defensive focus. This upgrade, the updates in this game. Also, one of the things they decided they can do is that now apparently NFL allows them to put on tattoos. So now you have lots of them with their tattoos on. So realism and all that. Then there was Dawngate, which is a MOBA. You know MOBAs?
I know MOBAs.
So in this game, it looks a lot like a MOBA. they show some artwork of this glowing blue guy. Man, this guy helps you out, and really, that's all I got to say about that. It's a MOBA.
I think that's all pretty much the conference.
Yeah,
that's all I got to say about that.
But you forgot the best part: Mirror's Edge 2.
That was the best thing of last year, is when they announced Mirror's Edge.
They showed more gameplay then than they did now.
Really?
They showed artwork of the character, and they were showing how they were touching her up and how they improved her look. They make sure they keep the glove. The glove is important.
Yeah, the glove's important.
And then they show
the gameplay.
And they show some They showed prototype gameplay where you're in this area that has no textures on it, and she's running around and she beats people up, and then she does some climbing elements. I don't know what they did. Why did the game suddenly just...
It's like EA didn't know what to do with this E3. They had a bunch of, guys, we got like 5 games to talk about. How can we fill an hour? I don't know, man. I just don't know.
Well, thankfully, that's the last conceptual video. But
Good.
They showed off EA Sports FIFA 15.
Okay.
It looked nice. It's FIFA. You can't really mess around with that.
It's a soccer game, yeah.
And then they had Battlefield Hardline.
Which is clearly that's where they're putting all the
That's where they're putting all the focus. They had a full multiplayer demo showing off. I'm still questioning the viability of robbers with high artillery and cops who essentially destroy buildings in the process of stopping robbers.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, okay, so this kind of reminds me of The Other Guys, where they blow up a building and stop a guy who just robbed like a few $100. Yeah, I was like, okay.
I have to give them credit for going all the way, like the true Battlefield way, but it's really just cops and robbers. But after
they never catch me, coppers.
But when they were done,
boom, explosion.
When they were done, they said, "Oh, by the way, there's a beta that's available for PC, I think, but PS4 especially. Right now, we're gonna count down together, and we're gonna release the beta for everyone to play. And then on top of that, we also have people on a rooftop playing this game right now." And they actually apparently spent, after the EA conference, an hour of them having commentary of them playing the game on a rooftop.
Why would you play on a rooftop?
And Adam Boyes showed up. Adam Boyes from Sony showed up to say, "Oh yeah, it's coming to PS4." And he stepped off the stage. And at the end, they had Smoke come up. And he's like, "The beta's out! And there's some demos to your right that you can play," and that's the conference. Bye.
If I remember correctly, I think, was it for this conference that they said that when they announced the beta, people actually got up and started running?
Yes. Somebody was actually getting out of their seats while they were panning out. The guy was getting out of his seat to get to one of the demo units. I was like, people are escaping this conference while they still have a chance. Quickly, before the next concept art shows up.
This is an example of how not to do a conference. You're not showing off a game before when an embryonic stage, as they call that, is fine, but you need to have enough games to back that.
Yeah.
Here it was like half and half.
Yeah, you had games that were going to always come out every year. You get your Madden, your FIFA, your NHL, and then we got the games that we're teasing, and then you got the games that are so early that we don't even have a teaser for you.
My concern is that if these are all teasers or concepts, what are we going to see next year? Teasers?
We're going to see teasers next year, and then next year after that we're going to see gameplay trailers.
It's going to be an evolutionary process. Next year is just going to be teasers and more concepts. And then we're not going to see any games until 2016.
Yeah, this is the preliminary steps of E3 2016 for these guys.
It just seems weird, like they focus so much on getting these sports games out, because last year, remember, a lot of these sports games weren't coming out until this year, I think. And so now, sports games are ready, but nothing else is.
Yeah.
It feels kind of weighted one way or the other.
But that was EA. And then came Ubisoft Conference.
Yes.
So Ubisoft Conference was a lot more fun than EA's.
Of course. Had more games.
A lot more games. They had unique new games that we hadn't seen, but a lot of these games were games we knew about before.
Of course.
Aisha Taylor, she was a great host again. Obviously, language was always a factor in her first appearance. But, they seem to have embraced her as a host.
Just be yourself and we'll have fun.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they did, I think. They had fun for, I'd say, about 80% of the time.
There's a few moments where I think, she's just playing it off. But other times, she generally looks like she's enjoying herself.
Yeah, so the first game was Far Cry 4.
Yes,
which
they always start with Far Cry.
Now, this was actually a bit of a game, like more of a cutscene, a long cutscene, where it shows the main character as he goes through a convoy. There's a lot of violence. He climbs out, and then you see the villain, who ultimately kills his henchman because he killed other people. And he's like, "Oh, I got blood on my shoes!" And he goes, "Oh, he's got blood, of course, splattered on his face." And he's like, "Oh, you're the man of honor at my thing." I don't know what the plot of the game is at this point, but it obviously supposed to add tension to who the villain is. And it looks beautiful. They're really good animations of the characters, but really this didn't offer much in the way of concept
as gameplay. But one thing I think Ubisoft gets done right is especially in Far Cry, is getting the villains to be personified.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm literally right here. I'm talking to you, the gamer, not just the character. I want you to feel my presence. And that's exactly what they did, is they do a great job with storytelling. And I thought it was really, when I came in, I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
that's a way to start a conference.
That's a way to start it off. Then they went to Just Dance. They like the quick shifts, don't they?
Kind of a quick shift there from violence to dancing.
Let's dance! Just Dance 2015. They kind of showed a small trailer. They obviously focused more on the Kinect version, but they also had some Wii. It's coming to Wii U, so they're actually supporting it in some fashion. And on top of that, they announced, this was actually very new, Just Dance Now.
Yes, if you have a smart TV, smartphone, anything with an app on it, effectively, you can download this Just Dance Now app, and you can use it as a controller to your game, so everyone can play simultaneously. You can have they say like 20,000 people can play?
Oh, something like that.
They claim an entire stadium could play if they wanted to.
Yes, the idea is that the motion sensors of your smartphone will sense the motion, and because you're synced to whoever's playing it, as long as you're doing it to the same song as that person's playing it at the time they're playing it, it adds your score. And then suddenly everybody's scores are suddenly ranked. It's actually really neat.
And it actually can pick up, basically because your app actually has your name and stuff in it. If you win, it'll say, Tony won. And no matter where you are in that stadium, you'll go, I win! Woo!
I don't think we're going to be playing many stadium games.
No, I don't think we're playing much. I'm not a big Just Dance person, so.
But I'd say this is a great innovation for Just Dance, because it shows at least they're trying something new.
Yeah.
Something now.
It is good they're expanding. This is also kind of because they're moving away from the Wii, I think, and they wanted to still have a lot of people playing with the controllers.
Yeah.
And this is a good way to get away from that. And also, they want to integrate smartphones.
Yeah, smartphones. This is actually the first time I think I saw smartphones actually specified anywhere specific in a conference. And there was too many to count. So, whatever. So then they showed a trailer for Tom Clancy's The Division. I gotta say, it felt a bit contrived.
Yeah, I think they tried to take something from the Dead Island trailer, where the family gets killed in this tragedy, this is the same kind of scenario here. And it's like, okay, I get it, but what does this have to do with the game?
Yeah, I think the idea was trying to be more like a story. Like, you see, the girl gets sick, and then the wife gets sick, and the guy's depressed, and then kills himself. But there really wasn't any story to that. It's kind of like a mini story, and I think the idea was to try and put context to the world of the Division. But I also think that it was laying it on a bit thick. I think they could have done a better job with it, where eventually the guy maybe find out you're playing as the father, something to give some sort of feedback.
But there was no connection to the family to the actual game.
Yeah, and they show another guy getting beaten up, and that guy's just another guy. So it's like, oh, whose terrible life are we going to jump to this time?
I was more interested when the fire truck showed up and there was like another group there. I'm like, well, who are they? I want to see what they have.
Well, that's probably part of the story element. And, these people have flamethrowers. These are obviously going to be significant to the game in some fashion. But I think that because they obviously showed off gameplay at Microsoft's conference, they really didn't want to show off more gameplay at this one.
It was a long trailer.
It was a long trailer, though, which is kind of a problem. Then they showed off The Crew, which is interesting because The Crew is coming out this year.
Yep.
And The Crew is actually a racing game across the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And the premise is that you can go from coast to coast, which is what they showed.
And they actually said you could have like there's multiple courses where you just constantly are racing nonstop.
Yeah, the coast to coast one is apparently a 3-hour race. So imagine racing for 3 hours.
3 hours.
Well, I've seen some games in Gran Turismo that last 24, but we're not going to talk about that.
I can't even imagine.
The Crew is one of the interesting games in that it's one of those games that requires multiplayer elements to it. So I'm kind of wondering what exactly it's going to provide, because to be honest, they didn't show a lot at the conference. They showed like this 4-minute trailer of you just racing really fast around the world, and that was about it. It looks nice, but there really wasn't a whole lot of discussion about it. Oh, but we can't have a Ubisoft conference without another Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, well, it's the same one from we got announced.
Whatever happened to the Xbox 360 and PS3 version?
That's the one thing we noticed immediately when they announced is the Assassin's Creed Unity again at this conference. Like, okay, they're going to talk about the next Assassin's Creed, and they never talked about it. It's very clear they want people to buy Unity before they buy the other one, because they really want people to move on to the new platforms because they're spending all this money making this game. Yeah. The other one is there for those who don't move on, but at the same time, I think they really want people moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. Unity, they had a single-player campaign where they were showing off that you have these little missions, these murder mystery that you can solve,
or thefts,
you can stop,
or not stop,
or not stop as this person did. He accepted of investigation, and he started chasing the guy, and both of them he didn't do.
He's like, yeah, great, I'm gonna go do this.
I gotta play some other game right now.
I gotta go kill this guy.
And and when you get to this point, I feel that it could have been better presented. This version, this one kind of
could have actually saved the guy from the guillotine.
There was just saying there were things that he didn't do in this demo that felt less interesting than what they saw in Microsoft's one. And the funny thing is that once he got to kill the guy, other people show up.
Magically. There's 3 other guys here. Hey guys, let's do this. I'm like, so is this a single player game, or do you have to play multiplayer?
Yeah, the same thing with The Crew and this game. Do we have to play multiplayer for these games, or are we going to be allowed to play a single player experience? That's
actually
what I'm concerned about.
A lot of these games are showing multiplayer. In fact, even Far Cry 4 had a multiplayer segment.
Yeah, which we'll talk about at Sony's conference.
But the fact is that most of these Ubisoft games have co-op as a major focus.
Yeah, they want that uPlay money. Do you even pay money for uPlay?
I don't even know. There's also this other game that's multiplayer, but it can be done to better yourself.
Yeah.
It's Shape Up.
Yeah, Shape Up was one of the, I think, the only new IP that was like brand new announced at this conference.
And the idea behind it is pretty sound. They wanted to make an exercise game, but make it feel like a game rather than an exercise.
Yeah, the game actually uses Kinect, and it's like Xbox One exclusive
because it uses Kinect.
So I'm actually surprised it was shown here and not at Microsoft's conference. But as we mentioned in Microsoft's video, it's probably because Microsoft wanted to distance from Kinect as opposed to integrate it in some way.
And also, I don't think they wanted exercise on their floor.
Yeah, they actually had a hands-on video where they showed some guys doing push-ups, and they tried to show these giant things on top of you, but it really was just you're just doing push-ups. And then they also the one where you're actually doing a dance. I think it was Eye of the Tiger was he was playing, and it looks pretty cool. I'm actually intrigued by how it's able to tell where your feet are relative to the screen.
And that's something the new Kinect can do compared to the old one.
Yeah, so I'm thinking Shape Up looks nice from an aesthetic standpoint, but the question is, who's actually going to play a video game, exercise game that's designed like a video game.
Well, the point is that you can even play yourself. You can verse yourself. And where I think this game is aiming for is that if you don't have anything to compete against when you're exercising, you might not do anything because people want immediate results.
Yeah.
If you compete against yourself, you try to better yourself. So instead of doing 5 push-ups, you put 6 push-ups. Or next time, I'll do 20. Or the next time, I'll do 30. Like, you'll get better because you want to try to outdo yourself. Yeah, or outdo your friends.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that. Yeah, that's a very innovative element. To be able to say, hey, take a replay of an actual replay video of yourself, and you're playing against that. That looked neat. Now the question is, will it actually benefit anything? But it looks good.
And it's good to have a sort of competition in an exercise game because that way you feel like you have a rival you're up against. Whereas some games that are just exercise-based, you'd be like, just walk away. Now, UbiArt is a great engine, and they did Child of Light and Rayman Legends, and now they're doing another game called Valiant Hearts: The Great War.
Yeah, this was actually announced at the same time as Child of Light.
Yes.
This game is coming out to everything. It's coming out to, I think, Xbox 360, PS3, Xbox One, and PS4.
Yes.
And the idea is that you're playing essentially in the trenches of World War One. You're actually following a dog as he goes through, this group of heroes, and what they do. And obviously, we can kind of predict that they're all probably going to die. But the premise is this is not supposed to. It's supposed to be essentially like a puzzle platformer of sorts. That you play as these individual people with their own traits and try and see them ultimately do good in the world during a time where good was really necessary or really needed.
And the one thing about it, they said is a lot of the characters and environments and scenarios in this game was based off of actual letters written.
Yeah.
So it's like these might be historically accurate or more accurate than if they just made it up.
Yeah, and this is not like other games where they go shoot bang. I'm just going to shoot all the.
You're playing as a dog. You can't shoot.
Well, you're not just playing as a dog. I think you're also playing as the people in some way. But the premise is this is actually a very solemn game. It was interesting to see.
Even the trailer was solemn.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see Ubisoft actually have a segment dedicated to this trailer because the rest of the conference, when looking at it, it's very different, and that's why I said about 80% of this was fun. This was more like a remembrance, more calm and really down to earth game, and I really think it nailed the tone down on that trailer.
I need to see more of how the game actually plays to see how I will enjoy playing it. But as far as like story, definitely was a powerful trailer. So I'm hoping to see that actually present through the game and actually do respect for the people that they represent.
Yes. So then the president of Ubisoft shows up. He loves showing up at the end. So he decided that he was going to announce something else.
They always announce one more thing.
So the thing they announced was Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, which is actually the 3rd or 4th iteration of the newest Rainbow Six game. Because accordingly, they announced a game called Rainbow Six Patriots about 3 years ago. The game had actually been rebooted about 3 times before it got to this position. To be honest, I think it looks good. I'm not sure if it's even matching the level of intensity that we saw with the last 2 unveilings. 2 years ago, we got Watch Dogs. A year ago, it was The Division. This, Rainbow Six Siege.
Now, I feel what you can do in this game, shoot through walls, blow up ceilings, and go through the ceiling.
Yeah.
The question is, if different environments there will be, how many things will be breakable, what are attractable, and stuff like that. That's a key point in this. Can you destroy the structure of the building and make it collapse? How intense?
Is the game, what we saw was a 4 versus 4 game.
Yes.
And obviously we had the silly banter again.
I really wish they got rid of the silly banter. Oh, there's Havoc!
But
where's Havoc?
But there's a lot of destruction. There's a lot of destruction that's easily seen. Destroyable environments is always a good sign because it means you have a much more moldable experience. You could have that house play multiple times and the game just changes up so many times. I'm questioning what the game is actually going to be in the overall scheme of things. What we saw was a single stage multiplayer experience. Is the game going to have more multiplayer experiences? Is it going to be a single player campaign of any sort? Or is it going to be more of this 4v4 element for the entire experience?
Now, I noticed this one thing. This is a 4 versus 4. Why didn't we see the perspective of the people who are doing the kidnapping?
I think that they might want to hold back on that. For one, I think they probably have some stuff in that side of things they haven't fully realized. Or it's just they wanted it to be from the perspective of their team. Because I don't think it ever changed perspective of who was playing.
Yeah, it
was always that one person. So I think they wanted it to be a constant playthrough from one person's perspective how the game was. Though I don't know why they would start to think like they have like rivalries between people.
I don't know,
because the whole like it's Havoc. What's Havoc gonna do? And so I was questioning.
I think like 2 times they could have just grabbed the hostage and gotten out, and they're like, "Wait, what's going on over here?" And, no, get the girl out of there. Just do it.
Yeah, and hopefully the hostages are not just all women. Just saying.
Or there's no all case of hostages.
Exactly. There got to be more to it than just hostage situations. Because the last thing I need is so much of these escort missions. But in the end, it was a nice unveiling. It looks like it has a lot of cool ideas. I'm just not certain if it's got the same oomph as the previous 2 unveilings did.
Well, again, we'll have to see how it develops.
Yeah,
hopefully it'll actually reach the end of development as opposed to the other ones, which keep getting rebooted.
So anyways, that's Ubisoft. I felt that Ubisoft did a really good job.
Mm-hmm. They presented the games that Ubisoft was meant to present.
Yeah, I think that they didn't really announce much in the way of new stuff. I mean, they had Just Dance Now, they announced Shape Up, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. But everything else was kind of a retread. Far Cry 3-4 was just a cutscene. And
Just Dance
was just a trailer. Tom Clancy's The Division, just a trailer. The Crew, kind of a video trailer. There was not a whole lot of substance as much as there was in I think in previous.
They really wanted to focus on Assassin's Creed.
Yes.
It was a big thing, as well as Shape Up. They did a lot of Shape Up.
A lot of Shape Up.
And they really just wanted to emphasize co-op. They want people to play with other people, and that's what they want to do. Even Assassin's Creed, which is they showed up the single player component, threw in co-op at the end. By the way, don't forget it's co-op. And it didn't talk about the other one, which I think was a big disappointment in my part, because we want to see that.
Even if it was a trailer or something.
Or even you didn't even mention it. You could have just said, "Oh, by the way, so Assassin's Creed Unity is coming out, and Assassin's Creed such and such is coming out also that year."
Yeah.
They couldn't say that. They didn't even. I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to do. It's clear they want you to buy the new stuff.
Yeah, they obviously want the new stuff. So anyway, that's Ubisoft and EA's conferences. Got them all squared away. The next video is Sony. So click on the right side to go to Sony, click on to the left to go back to Microsoft, or click on any of the links below to get to the other videos non-linearly.
Yep.